The recruitment. You're 34. You're sitting in a federal detention center in Virginia, 3 weeks into a drug trafficking sentence, when two men in suits walk into the visitation room and sit down across from you. One of them opens a folder with your name on it. The other one says, "We know you grew up in the 503. We know you ran product for the Fulton clique in 2007, and we know you have a wife and 2 kids in El Salvador who you haven't seen in 6 years." He pauses. "We can get them here. New names, new papers, safe housing. Or you can finish your 18 years and hope they're still alive when you get out." You stare at the folder. Your mugshot is clipped to the front. Behind it, pages of surveillance photos, phone records, names you recognize. The FBI agent leans forward and says, "We don't need you to testify. We need you to go back in. You speak the language. You know the signs, the slang, the structure. We need you inside the Sailors Clique in East Boston, wearing a wire for as long as it takes." You ask how long. He says, "Could be a year, could be 3. You ask what happens if they find out. He doesn't answer. He doesn't have to. MS-13's rule for informants is a green light. An order to kill. No appeals. No exceptions. Ver oyer. E caller. See, hear, and say nothing. You broke that rule the second you sat down at this table. You say yes. 3 days later, you're in a safe house in Quincy, Massachusetts, sitting at a kitchen table while an HSI agent tapes a wire the size of a thumbnail to the inside of your belt buckle. He shows you how the GPS tracker in your phone works. They'll know where you are within 8 feet at all times. He hands you a prepaid phone with one number saved, a contact listed as Mama. That's your handler. You call Mama every night at 11 p.m. No exceptions. If you miss a call, they send a team. If you send a text with the word "unfermo," they pull you out within the hour. He looks you in the eye and says, "Don't use that word unless you mean it. Once you're out, you're out. There's no going back in. Getting in." You're standing outside a laundromat in East Boston at 9 p.m., waiting for a guy named Chino who runs numbers for the Sailors Clique. Your cover story is simple. You're a deportee from El Salvador who slipped back in through the Texas border, looking for work and old connections. You drop names from the 503, homeboys you actually knew a decade ago, dealers, clique leaders from San Salvador. Chino listens, nods slowly, and asks you who your primera palabra was. You tell him. He pulls out his phone, makes a call in rapid Caliche slang you can barely follow, and hangs up. "You're good," he says. "Come by tomorrow. La Tienda on Meridian, 8 p.m. La Tienda is a bodega with a back room. 8 guys are sitting around a table covered in beer cans and an open ledger. This is a clique meeting. The palabrero, the shot caller, is a 26-year-old named Demente with a gothic MS tattooed across his throat. He doesn't look at you when you walk in. He's talking about dues. Every homeboy pays weekly, and the money goes to lawyers, weapons, and a cut that gets wired to the Ranfla National in El Salvador. When he finishes, he turns to you and says, "Chino says you're from the 503. That's nice. You want to be a paro. You ride with us. You do what we say. You don't ask questions. Entiendes?" You nod. You're a paro now, a prospect, the lowest rung. For 6 weeks, you're a driver. You pick Chino up at 7 a.m. and take him to collect rent, extortion payments from local businesses. A restaurant on Bennington Street pays $200 a week. A car wash on Saratoga pays $150. A Salvadoran bakery run by a 60-year-old woman named Doña Carmen pays $100 and hands it over in an envelope without making eye contact. You sit in the car while Chino goes inside. You count the envelopes when he comes back. Every Friday, you drive the total to a Western Union, where Chino wires a portion to a number in San Salvador. You record every transaction on the wire in your belt buckle. At night, you sit in a rented room above a barber shop, call Mama at exactly 11 p.m., and recite every name, every address, every dollar amount from memory. The agent on the other end types it into a database you'll never see. The jump-in. You're 35 now. Demente tells you it's time. You're in a parking lot behind an abandoned warehouse in Chelsea at midnight. 12 homeboys form a circle around you. Demente counts. Uno. The first fist catches your kidney from behind. Dos. Someone hits your jaw. Tres. A boot connects with your shin. The count feels slower than 13 seconds should. Each number stretches like it's being pulled apart. At siete, someone cracks your orbital bone and your left eye swells shut immediately. At diez, your knees buckle, but 2 guys grab your arms and hold you upright because going down means you failed. At tres, everyone stops. Demente grabs your face with both hands, looks at your one open eye and says, "Era's homeboy ahora." You're a homeboy now, fully initiated. The wire in your belt buckle recorded every punch, every count, every second. But being jumped in isn't enough. Demente tells you the next morning, while you're holding a bag of frozen peas against your swollen eye, that you need to poner trabajo, put in work. A Chequeo, a mid-level affiliate, was caught talking to a girl from Barrio 18. The clique voted. The green light is on. Demente hands you a machete and says, "Tonight, the park on Saratoga. He'll be there at 10. Your stomach drops through the floor. You excuse yourself to the bathroom, lock the door, and stare at the phone in your pocket. You could text "Unfermo" right now. Extraction within the hour. 3 years of potential intelligence. Gone. 10 unsolved murders. Unsolved. 60 gang members still on the street. You put the phone back in your pocket. At 9:45 p.m., you call Mama from a payphone 2 blocks away. The handler patches you to the FBI case agent. You have 14 minutes to explain the situation and get an answer. The FBI's answer: go to the park. Show up with the machete. An undercover unit will be staged 1 block away. When the target arrives, a rival gang sighting will be called in to 911 on the next block, pulling every cop in the area to that location and creating enough chaos that Demente calls it off. You walk to the park with the machete in a grocery bag. The target shows up at 10:08 p.m. Your hands are shaking. At 10:11 p.m., 2 police cruisers scream past the park with sirens blaring, heading 1 block east. Demente's phone rings. He listens, then turns to you and says, "Not tonight. Too hot. Vamonos." You walk back to the car with the machete still in the bag and your heart beating so hard you can hear it over the sirens. The target is picked up by ICE the next morning on an unrelated immigration hold. He'll never know how close he came. The unraveling. You're 36. You've been inside for 2 years. You've recorded 340 hours of conversations. You've documented 14 extortion rings, 3 weapons caches, and the locations of 8 members wanted for murder in El Salvador. The FBI has enough for a RICO indictment that would take down 60 members across 11 states. But the case agent wants more. He wants the Ranfla National, the command structure in San Salvador that directs operations from inside a Salvadoran prison. He wants you to stay in for another year. The problem is that you're disappearing. The agent you were when you walked into that visitation room is fading. You speak Caliche more than English now. You drink with homeboys until 3 a.m. and wake up to drive Chino on collection runs at 7. You haven't seen your wife and kids, relocated to a safe house in Ohio, in 19 months. Your handler notices it first. "You sound different. You sound like them." You hang up and stare at the ceiling. She's right. Last week, when a YG disrespected Demente at a meeting, your first instinct wasn't to record it. It was to check the kid yourself. You caught yourself, but the fact that you had to catch yourself is the problem. The takedown. You're 37. It's 4 a.m. on a Thursday, and you're lying in bed above the barbershop when your phone buzzes. It's not Mama. It's a text from a number you don't recognize. Sabemos. We know. Your blood goes cold. You grab the phone and type "Unfermo" with hands that won't stop shaking. 14 minutes later, a black Suburban pulls up outside the barbershop. 2 HSI agents in body armor pull you out the back door, down a fire escape, and into the vehicle. You're at Logan Airport by 5:15 a.m. By 7 a.m., you're on a plane to a city you've never been to, with a new name, a new social security number, and a duffel bag of clothes that aren't yours. 6 hours after you land, the FBI executes the warrants. 56 members arrested in a single morning across 11 states. Demente is pulled out of bed at 5:47 a.m. Chino is arrested at a Western Union. The palabrero of a sister clique in Maryland is taken down at a gas station. 10 homicides solved, 8 weapons caches seized. $2.3 million in extortion revenue documented. It's the largest MS-13 takedown in U.S. history, and nobody in the organization knows your name. They know a name, the name you used for 3 years. But you're already gone. You're 38. You're sitting in a kitchen in a city you can't name, in a house the government pays for, watching your kids eat cereal. They call you by a name that isn't yours. Your wife has a social security number that was created 14 months ago. You don't go outside without checking the street first. You don't answer the door. You don't make friends. Somewhere in a federal prison, 60 men are serving sentences that range from 15 years to life, and every single one of them wants to know who the informant was. MS-13 has 10,000 members across 42 states. The green light doesn't expire. You're not an agent. You're not a homeboy. You're not even the person you were before you walked into that visitation room. You're just a file number in a witness protection database that 3 people in the world have access to.